The apparel industry is filled with so much jargon and terms that you might not be familiar with. And that's why I'm here today to teach you some basics that have to do with garments so you can source the blanks that you need so that you can communicate clearly with your vendors and get shit done the right way. So first I want to talk about GSM, or ounce per yard square. This number is just the baseline of how heavy the fabric is. It doesn't necessarily mean how nice it is, but there is a slight correlation between the fabrics becoming nicer as it gets thicker, at least in the blank industry. But in general, just because the GSM is higher doesn't mean that it is nicer. So just keep that in mind. For t-shirts, typically the range starts from 4, goes to around 6 to 7. I think anything over 8 or 9 is overkill for a shirt personally, because it becomes very hard to wear as like a layer. You just have to wear like this thick garment, and I'm not into that, but I think 6.5 is my personal sweet spot, which is LA Apparel, and also AS Color does a lot of shirts in that range as well. If you're looking for a shirt that just has a really solid foundation and is not too heavy, not too thick, not too thin, not too light, I would say go for the Comfort Color 1717, because that one is the perfect middle ground. The shirt is very basic cut, so it's nothing special like a drop shoulder or crop or anything like that, but the weight is good, it feels nice, and it's also an overall solid pick. The only downside is that the neck label is sewn in and you can't tear it out, so just make sure that you're aware of that before you purchase it, because it does take a long time to remove and put your own branding on. For hoodies, I love the range of 12 to 16 ounces. I'm not just talking ounce per yard square because typically, you know, we're in the US, everything's in imperial units, but there's an easy way to convert this anyway. You can go to this website. I'll post a link here or maybe in the description, and just go to it. It's free. Just type in the GSM. It'll give you the ounce per yard squared, or you can go ounce per yard squared back to GSM. So easy way to go back and forth between the two numbers, just so you know where you're at. And again, just because the GSM is higher, it does not mean that it's a nicer piece of fabric. It just means that it's heavier. So make sure when you're shopping for blanks, just because something is a higher weight, it doesn't necessarily mean the quality is better. So make sure you order your samples before you order in bulk, because you don't want to be wasting money on blanks. That's the worst way to spend your money. But I do think there is a correlation of weight and quality going up hand in hand, because a lot of the times, the heavier the fabric, people kind of assume it's nicer. But again, this is just my personal opinion, so don't come at me in the comments. But heavier, nicer, but not guaranteed. So that's enough about GSM. Let's move on to the next topic, which is tubular and side seam. So this typically refers to the seam or the cut of your shirts. I haven't really seen it being used for hoodies, because hoodies are always side seam. I don't think there's ever been a tubular hoodie that I've seen on the market. But basically what this means is that the stitching on the side of your shirts. So side seam means that there's seams going down from your pit down to the bottom hem of the shirt, and tubular means that it's just one continuous fabric. Again, this is a preference thing. It doesn't mean one is nicer than the other, but typically side seams are a little bit more premium because there's a little bit more extra work that was put into the blank, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the shirt is nicer. I'm personally wearing a tubular shirt from LA Apparel. This is the 1807 long sleeve, which is one of my favorite shirts that they have. And it's tubular, but I love it because it's comfy, it doesn't have any issues, and it's just the perfect fit for me. So the issues that people bring up with tubular shirts is that it kind of twists as you wear or you wash them. I think this is what happens with lighter or cheaper garments, but the more heavier the fabric is and the more higher quality cotton is used, I've seen there's always less issues with it. So I've seen some brands that sell the cheaper fabrics with the tubular cuts that just don't last very well. So like anything, you have to wash it and test it yourself. Wear it, make sure you like the fit, wash it a couple of times, because in reality, people are gonna wash their clothes, right? They're not just gonna wear it once, hopefully. So that being said, make sure you order your fabrics, sample them out, wash them, wear them, and make those calls on your own, because there's no way to really know until you order it yourself. If you're looking for a solid shirt with side seams, I would say go for AS Color, because they got the heavy tee and they got the classics tee. Classics tee is, I think, the people's champ in terms of all the blanks from AS Color. Their staple tee is a little bit skinny for me, but I do like the classics because the classic tee feels right to me. Again, this is all preference. Every time I talk about anything that I like, it's always a preference thing. So don't just take my word for it. Go get it yourself and make sure you like it, because they are more expensive than the cheaper shirts. And my new favorite from AS Color has to be the faded heavy tee, because that shirt fits so nice. It has the side seams. It's got that extra inch on the chest, which makes it really comfortable to wear. And also it's pigment dyed, so you got that nice wash look and it feels super soft. It's just an overall super solid shirt. And if you're shopping for a premium shirt, I would say go for the AS Color faded heavy tee. Talking about the pigment dyes, next thing I want to talk about is PFD, which stands for prepare for dye. Prepare for dye means that the garments are manufactured for you to tie dye, mineral wash, basically give it extra color, extra treatment after the fact that you purchase it. You can buy dyes off the shelf, which are cool, but then typically people just use white shirts. PFD garments are always gonna be pure white garments because they're prepared for tie dye or mineral wash or any other treatments that you wanna run with your fabric. That's why PFD is made for this purpose, because it absorbs the color well, and also the stitching will turn into the same color as the dye, versus when you tie-dye a white shirt, typically off the shelf, it's made with a polyester thread, and then the polyester thread is going to stay white. So if you've ever noticed, there's some brands like Dynamite that sell on SS Activewear, which I personally use. I don't think it's bad. I think they use Gildan 5000s to tie-dye. But what happens is that because the thread is made out of polyester, you're gonna see that the white stitching stays on the garment. So you kind of get this contrasting look, which I think is cool, so I don't mind it. And also running your own tie-dyes is kind of a pain in the ass, because tie-dyes are very finicky, and usually the sample doesn't look like your actual production run, because the sample is just one piece, and the person making it usually is the expert at making the dye. And then once they get to bulk production, they hand it off to everybody else. And depending on how complex it is, it could come out consistently well, or it could come out really shitty. So keep that in mind when you do tie-dyes, and always order PFDs if you can. And if you're not able to source any PFD blanks, just make sure to get 100% cotton and it's white, because it's a lot easier to add color to a white garment versus stripping away color from another garment, because then you're gonna get a lot of inconsistencies across the board. So if you're not interested in any tie-dyes and mineral washes or PFD stuff, next is a more common jargon called half chest or FPS to hem. These two terms stand for the size of the garments, and I personally believe that these are the only two measurements you really need for sizing out a garment, at least like if you're getting blanks and you're not making your own patterns, because that's the two basic measurements, and I haven't had any issues in the last however long I've been doing this for. So half chest and FPS to hem basically stands for the chest across from pit to pit, and FPS is high point shoulder, so it's from this point all the way to the bottom of the shirt, and that gives you the width and the length of the shirt. So when you put up a sizing chart for your garments, I always recommend to put at least these two, because for the most part, sleeves are pretty consistent across the board. There might be some drop shoulders, but typically in the blank industry, drop shoulder just means that you order a size up and then you kind of get that drop shoulder look, versus a lot of the blanks, unless they're specialty, are cut pretty standard, so you're not gonna have a lot of issues with that. When you get these measurements, make sure that the shirt is 100% flat on the ground. Don't take the measurement if you're on an uneven surface or if it's wrinkled, because you're gonna get inaccurate measurements. Typically, the tolerance for measurements is ½ inch. So whenever you make a sizing chart, just make sure to put tolerances plus or minus ½ inch, so that when your customers are measuring their garments out, they can get a better reference of what it actually looks like, versus trying to be too accurate. You might set yourself up for failure and a lot of customer service requests saying that your sizing is incorrect. So now that you know how to measure garments, let's move on to MOQ and case quantity. MOQ stands for minimum order quantity, and this is the number that has to do with the minimums you have to hit in order to place an order with a manufacturer or vendor. And usually with blanks, it could be as little as 1, or it could go all the way up to 72, depending on who you're ordering from. I haven't seen 72 in terms of garment ordering, but when you order through a vendor to do screen print work or any kind of, production, that's when the MOQ kind of kicks in. I do know that some vendors like Shakaware actually has an MOQ of 3 units per size, and also you have to order a minimum of $200. So some brands might do that in order for you to order a lot more from them, since I'm sure they don't want to just fulfill one shirt to people, because some of these companies want to sell retail versus wholesale, because that's more money for them. So case quantities refers to pretty much the box that the shirts come in. A lot of companies have cases by 72, some might be 36, it just really depends. But 72 seems to be the consensus of what a case means, but it really depends on who's selling it to you. So what's important about casing is that some companies offer discounts depending on how much you order. So if you order in cases of 72, 36, whatever they set it as, it might be worth talking to a representative from these companies to see if you can get a discount. Because when you start ordering a lot of units, these small discounts start to add up a lot. I mean, 50 cents off of 100 units is $50. So if you order 200, that's $100, right? So if you're ordering a lot, it doesn't hurt to hit up their customer service and ask for a sales rep, or just have a dedicated account manager, because if your volume is high enough, people will usually give you an account manager. So don't forget to reach out and say, hey, is there any bulk pricing discounts? Is there any case pricing? Because these are gonna really save you a lot of money in the long term. Just don't expect any discounts if you're ordering like 5 pieces, because no one's gonna really give you a discount for just ordering 5 shirts. So if you're ordering 72, might be worth it. If you're ordering 5, you're gonna have to up your quantity a little bit before you can reach out and ask for more. So those are the 5 terms that I wanted to talk about today. Hope this video was helpful for you. I wanna make sure that whatever videos I make, that it is consistent, provides enough information for you to get started, or if you already knew stuff, this adds a little bit more in your knowledge base. If y'all want to check out all the stuff that I make, I have it on my shop at icandoit.shop, and I also have a link to all my equipment that I use from Heat Press Nation, like my heat press, my cutter, and my hat press. If y'all want to check that out, make sure you hit the link in the description box below, because any purchase that goes through that will support my channel, and I'll greatly appreciate that. As always, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.